Hello, здравствуйте. This is Badhyz in Soviet Turkmenia, just on the border with Iran and Afghanistan. It is the most southerly point of my country. As you can see, it is a sun-scorched landscape. And in summer, the salty depression of Yerolanduz is one of our hottest places, with air temperatures reaching a sweltering 60 degrees. These columns of rock, or kazans, make excellent vantage points for observing this extraordinary landscape. Nearly the whole of Western Europe could fit into the arid lands of Central Asia. In the far south, Badhyz is a very special place because it's one of our most distinguished nature reserves. Beyond the limestone walls of the Yerolanduz is our equivalent of an East African savanna. Instead of zebra, we've got kulan. Instead of acacias, we've got pistachio trees. For 8 months of the year, this is a parched landscape. But spring is the kindest period when it's mild and moist, making this arid land burst into color. Everything is engaged in a race against the desiccating sun. In only 10 days, these poppies set seed and wither away. The tiny flowers of the pistachios promise nuts for the autumn. Now they're a perch for hoopoe. There's a flush of insects, food for spring migrants. This is a roller, a local breeder. Rose-colored starlings are en route to more northerly nesting sites. Wild tulips, the ancestors of our garden plants, bloom in the spring. They survive the scorching summer as subterranean bulbs. Horsefield tortoises also spend most of the year underground. They're only active for about 10 weeks, when the vegetation is green and lush. Now they must mate before the scorching summer sun drives them once again into their burrows. There's competition for females. Here comes the rival. Nodding is a form of courtship. the loser makes a strategic withdrawal. At the end of May, the female buries 10 eggs, which will be incubated by the heat of the sun. Some plants put on amazing growth in a very short time. Giant fennels take only 3 weeks to hoist their flowers 2 meters into the air. They are like high-rise restaurants, serving nectar and pollen for a myriad of different kinds of insects. For the longhorn beetle, one of our biggest insects, the fennel is a nursery as well. Its grubs bore through the hefty stems, feeding on the juicy pith. Kulan, or wild asses, once ranged across the steppes of Asia, but unfortunately, overhunting and the spread of human settlements caused their numbers to decline. In 1941, Badhyz Reserve was established to protect kulan. There were then under 100. Now there are 3,000. April is the mating season. The stallions round up harems of mares. As the mares become receptive, the stallion mates with them. Like East Africa, we've got our gazelles, goitered gazelles or jairan. Up until 1960, they were chased by cheetahs, but alas, the cheetah is now extinct here. The kulan's dung is sufficiently nutritious for scarab beetles, which hurry to carve up the succulent spoils. The scarab won't rest until its valuable booty is safely stored away. A final check for size. The legs double up as calipers, making sure that the bowl of food fits the hole. Beneath the soil, the dung stays moist, and the scarab can feast in peace, away from other beetles and predators, like the Hubara bustard. At the moment, he is preoccupied with attracting a mate. His confection of feathers so obscures his view that he's said to blunder into shrubs like a headless chicken. But his has its dragons. A lizard 2 meters long can be surprisingly difficult to see. The desert monitor is our largest reptile, and it's only active during the spring and early summer. It's a voracious hunter. A crested lark. The larks will lay a replacement clutch. The monitor also has a taste for giant gerbils, but now that they've been alerted, they won't be caught this time. These rodents are 3 times larger than the gerbils which are kept as pets. An area the size of a football pitch can have 3,000 burrows. Enriched with gerbil droppings, the reworked spoil makes a good seed bed for plants. Their warrens attract Isabelline wheat ears. They're compulsive collectors, for good reason. Fresh vegetation soon withers in the heat, so plants are best preserved underground, where it's cool and humid. Each family lives in a catacomb, with chambers for storing food, 2 miles of tunnel, and nurseries, which are especially secure. They're extremely fast breeders. The first pups are born at the end of February, and by June, the females will have produced 2 more litters with 12 babies in each. Often gerbil burrows host babies of a different kind. The Isabeline Whittier nestlings were hatched 6 feet underground. They are but one of 70 kinds of animals that make use of gerbil burrows. The largest bird in Badhyz also has a chick. The flat-topped pistachio is a suitable platform for a black vulture's nest. The male has a crop full of carrion. But he won't feed his offspring. He leaves that to his mate. She sifts the pre-processed food for tidbits the right size for her chick. This is not only one of the largest of our vultures, but one of the rarest. Fortunately, in Badhyz there are 30 pairs. Being so small, the chick needs shielding from the relentless midday sun. "9 feet of wing is an effective parasol. As spring gives way to summer, Badhyz becomes hotter and drier. But it's not our driest place. Further north is our Sahara. Rolling dunes, or barkhans, are part of the Karakum Desert in northern Turkmenistan. When it's moist, tiny sedges sprout from the surface of the sand, like mustard and cress. During the short growing season, the camels thrive on this nourishing sward of sedges. It enables them to produce rich milk. With so much desert, it's not surprising that camels do so well in Central Asia. 250,000 prosper in these arid lands. Most of them are domesticated dromedaries. They are multi-purpose beasts, providing milk, wool, and meat. And the nomadic shepherds which roam the Karakum use them for transport. Their fat-tailed sheep, called karakuls, graze the desert vegetation. Unfortunately, our arid lands are spreading, partly due to the flocks of sheep nibbling away the protective cover of plants. The newborn lambs are especially valuable because their short curly wool is the source of precious astrakhan. The lambs aren't with their mothers for long. Removing the pelt requires skill and a good set of lungs. The air separates the fleece from the carcass, and the delicate astrakhan can be removed undamaged. For these Turkmen shepherds, it's a way of earning a living from the desert. After the skins are sorted and dried, they're exported to the West. Many of our desert dwellers avoid heat stress by emerging only in the cool of the night. To find one's way and intercept prey, creatures must be designed for the darkness. Sand geckos don't have eyelids and remove dust with their tongue. A big-eared hedgehog covers 7 miles a night. The three-toed jerboa is a specialized desert mouse on stilts. It never needs to drink. The hedgehog is sensitive to the slightest sound. Saw-scaled vipers are our most venomous snakes. The hedgehog's spiny shield makes it impregnable. It's the snake that's in danger. As it recoils in alarm, the serrated scales on its side rasp together, making a warning noise. Luckily for the snake, the hedgehog wasn't hungry enough to press home its attack. Little owls take the odd jerboa, but they feed chiefly upon insects. Just before dawn, the nocturnal creatures of the desert return to their relatively cool, humid burrows. Shortly after sunrise, the desert stage is active with another cast of actors. Blue-cheeked bee-eaters, one of our most exotic birds. Wintering in southern Africa, they come here to breed. Their burrows don't have eggs yet. The cocks catch insects on the wing. This one offers a grasshopper to his mate. Courtship feeding enables the hen to build up reserves for egg laying and tempts her to mate. Not all insects fall prey to the bee-eaters. This strange walk acts as a warning. The tenebrionid beetle produces offensive chemicals from the tip of its abdomen. Solar-powered lizards are well designed for the desert. They're encased in waterproof scales, and for their high-speed activity, they need to be heated by the sun. The toad-headed agama is unique to the Karakum. His tail is a banner, warning other males of his patch of sand. The desert agama doesn't display with his tail, but performs press-ups which flaunt his blue throat and belly. He's saying, "This is my patch of desert." Meanwhile, smaller sand agamas compete on the ground. The harmless sparring ends in a synchronized retreat. The sand boa is only 8 inches long, but to a small lizard, it's deadly. Like its larger cousins, it's a powerful constrictor, squeezing the last breath from its victim. With eyes on the very top of its head, This snake is superbly designed to glide through sand and ambush its prey. As they are so abundant, lizards are prized by many desert predators, even by white-winged woodpeckers. Packed with moisture and protein, the reptiles are a perfect meal for their nestlings. The Hubar bastard has finished displaying. He must now fatten up before migrating to Pakistan. He deals with this harmless lizard as though it were a venomous snake, which he can also eat. By June, the spring picnic is over. The blazing sun has driven the lizards into hiding, and the herbaceous plants have set seed and withered. Packed with nutrients, some seeds can survive for years, waiting for rain to bring them to life. Even so, only a few will eventually germinate. Seed killers are everywhere. The black-billed desert finch can survive without water, getting all its nourishment from seeds. Smaller creatures also gather grain to see them through the lean time ahead. Harvester ants have subterranean granaries. They store seeds under ideal conditions. They're experts at preserving grain, moving supplies between chambers at different depths, depending upon the temperature and humidity. Sometimes these workers hoard such large amounts of grain that the kulan, or even the local people, will pillage the ants' harvest. Badhyz in July. The cliffs of Kiziljar. This gash stretches for 18 miles and is our grandest canyon. By day, the salty basin of Yer Olanduz is an inferno, with temperatures soaring to 60 degrees Celsius. And yet even here, some animals manage to do well, but they're only active after sunset. A unique insect spends the whole of its life on the salt. The ferocious tiger beetle is long-limbed and fast. It waits for insects blown from the surrounding savanna to wander within striking distance. Once these jaws have sprung, there's no escape for the cricket. This tiny gray and white assassin is equally formidable. The putorak, or piebald shrew, won't hesitate to tackle a locust the same size as itself. The shrew, like most carnivores, gets enough moisture from the body fluids of its victims. Other animals must drink water every day. By high summer, kulan, like zebra, must live near a waterhole. The Kushka River, which originates in Afghanistan, is reduced to a trickle, but this is sufficient for these wild asses to slake their thirst. It's autumn, but on the savanna there's a bonanza of food. Throughout the summer, the pistachios, with their roots tapped into deep sources of water, have been forming their crop. Each nut is crammed with calories. These pistachios are crucial to Badhyz. Turkmenian mouflon or arhars. These wild sheep gorge themselves prior to their mating season. With the sun now losing its fearsome heat, kulan need to fatten up for the impending winter. The grazing will not improve until the return of spring in 5 months' time. Goiter gazelles also relish the pistachio nuts. Soon it will be their rutting season, so they need to feed up in preparation for the strenuous time ahead. But not only animals seek the nourishing nuts. Pistachios are a valuable crop for Turkmenistan. 2,000 tons are exported from Badhyz each year. But on this nature reserve, the harvest is limited so that the wild animals can have their share. The fallen pistachios soon disappear. Unlike the reptiles, gerbils don't hibernate, but huddle together for warmth in their burrows and feed from the store of pistachios. But not all the gerbils will survive. As the year draws to a close, there is still activity in the depression of Yer Oilanduz. Strange sounds echo around the canyons. The love song of goitered gazelles. These dainty antelope get their name from the buck's swollen larynx, built as a resonating chamber to amplify his calls. Fattened on pistachios, the bucks need all their strength to maintain a harem. Competing males are brought together around a pool of drinking water, and this creates conflict. The skirmishes are short-lived, and the dominant bucks spend most of their energy rounding up females. Each buck collects 4 or 5 females for his harem. The fawns are born in the following spring. At sunset, Yer Oilanduz rings with ghostly cries. Turkmenian eagle owl, one of our biggest owls. It's December. There's been no moisture for 8 months, but Badhyz reveals another, quite different mood. There's 18 degrees Celsius of frost. In the realms of the Russian bear, nowhere, not even our deserts, escapes the icy blast from the Arctic. black larks search for covered seeds. Only a few months ago, the kulan endured the searing heat. Now they face the bitter cold in their winter coats. But this desert snow is crucial. This precious moisture drives the abundance of spring. Warmth and the trickle of water coax tulips from the ground. Badhyz is transformed into a lush green wilderness for just a few brief weeks in spring. Far from these hot, dry lands of Central Asia are the cold deserts of our Arctic frontier, the realm of the great white bear, and the next stage of our journey.